Hi everybody, so I believe this is probably going to be the last video in this series about why narcissists abuse the people who love them, and how it starts, and why, and what are the mechanics of the abuse, and why do they do it. We've talked about their lack of empathy. We've talked about object theory, object relations, and object constancy. We've talked about how they first see you as being a perfect person, and then once they, aka the unicorn, and then once they've got you, once they got their unicorn, they start noticing all these little flaws about their unicorn, and it becomes difficult for them to keep their mouth shut. So they start trying to fix their unicorn by making polite suggestions, and then not so polite suggestions, and eventually it comes to the point where you the first time you tell them no, then that's the turning point. And so this is the final phase of the abuse pattern, and that's something called devaluation, where they're not even trying to be nice anymore. Like their main mode of communication is now to be mean and insulting constantly, because now they realize that they can't rationalize the fact that they were wrong, because their ego. They don't want to say that they were stupid and had the wrong impression of you, because they can't do that. I mean, obviously they're super smart, intelligent, handsome, beautiful, and they know what they're doing, but you're the one who constantly changes. You're the one who is always attacking them. I used to hear that from my narc so much, where she'd say, I'm getting sick of all the attacks. So every time that she would lie about something or want me to do something, and it's like, I'm not your husband, go. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. You'd be like, I am so sick of all the attacks. I'm so sick of all the attacks. You're so bipolar. And I was like, all I did was say no. That's not an attack. You asked if I would do something. When you ask somebody, that implies that they can either say yes or no, and I chose no. That's not an attack, that's a no. But they don't, narcissists can't, they don't see a no as just a no. They see a no as a personal attack, because they already think that they know what the right answer is, what you need, what they want, etc. So they know exactly what they want, exactly what they need. And so the act of saying no to that denies them what they want, what they need. And that act of denial is internalized as an attack. So yes, you're not perfect. You've got your good traits, your bad traits, but now they can't focus on more than one state at a time. So they only see you as either being perfect or flawed. Period. So you're either being perfect, you're the perfect husband, the perfect wife, perfect boyfriend, perfect girlfriend, you're such a wonderful person, until you cross them, and now you're flawed. Period. And those are the only two things that they understand. And after a while, emotionally for them, it can be emotionally exhausting for a narcissist, because those are the only feelings they have of their own. And so for them, they're with a partner who is perfect and flawed and perfect and flawed and flawed and flawed and perfect and flawed and perfect and flawed, flawed and perfect and flawed. Wow, that's actually I should create a rap tune. No, don't worry, I will not be releasing that on a single anytime soon. But you can see how that's to be somebody with a narcissistic personality, how dating can be exhausting for them. And you can hear it all the time when you start talking about your dating history, and everybody that they've previously dated, they describe them as somebody, case in point, my ex's ex before me was a firefighter. And what I would hear from her is that he was a firefighter. He was a really good firefighter, but he was just way too focused on his career and didn't care about the relationship. And he was so controlling, and he was always just so bipolar, and he would explode at me for no reason, right? Well, what about the one before that? Oh, well, he was a football player. He was a really good guy. Everybody loved him. He was one of the most popular boys in school. but he was very controlling, and he would always lose his temper with me. And I started to notice how many controlling men could she possibly be going for? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm not controlling. There's another video I had talked about in my series about manipulation tactics, where she would purposefully go out and tell me she would be back around 7:30 or 8 at night. She was just going to go for a happy hour, and then it would drag on to 2:30 or 3 in the morning. And it was to the point where I just told her, it's like, you know what, if you're going to go out, just go out till 2 or 3. Just tell me that's what you're going to do. Don't tell me that you're on your way home at 9:30 and then not show up for 6 hours. Like, that's not cool. And she did that, and then she had an explosion at me, calling me controlling because I was worried. So, you know, you start to hear this pattern of all of their exes, how their exes had some sort of good status or had some measure of success, but they ultimately ended up disappointing the narcissist personally on some way, shape, or form. Instead of just, oh, well, you know, we didn't have as much in common as we thought. This is something you don't hear. You don't hear them like, oh, you know, they're a good person and I wish them well. Like, they're really great, but we just didn't, you know, we didn't really have strong enough connections. We didn't really bond on enough, but they're a good person and I wish them well. You never hear that from a narcissist. You hear that from normal people all the time, where you ask a normal person, you know, so what happened? And they're like, oh, well, you know, nothing bad happened. I mean, the feelings were mutual, and you know, I wish them well. We just, you know, there wasn't enough chemistry, you know. You never hear that. It's always some matter of personal attack or personal disappointment. So all of this comes back to when you hear how they're talking about their exes, and now you hear them talking to you in a manner that leads up to where they're now identifying you as some of these previous exes. You're in the devaluation stage, because now they see you as minimally value as their ex, and so they don't even try to talk nice to you anymore. And this is where the full-blown abuse pattern comes out, because they're mad that they're with you. They don't like the fact that they're with you. They're mad that you're a unicorn. They can't rationalize their own mistake, their own errors in judgment. So to avoid facing the fact that they got into it head over heels too quickly, that they jumped to conclusions, that they expected perfection and got surprised that they ended up with a human and not a unicorn, in order to protect that ego, they rationalize everything as your fault. And so then all the attacks come out, because in their mind it's a defense mechanism. And in other videos I've talked about how defense mechanisms develop, how they're now feeling like they're on the defensive, and their definition of defensive is your definition of being attacked. But they won't dump you. They won't let you go, because number one, if you try to leave them, and this is very important, narcissists do not like being dumped. Like, I left my ex, I moved out, and I filed for the divorce. And she laughs and scoffs whenever I say that I left her. She scoffs and she says, no, I left you. I'm like, how does that even work? Because you stayed in the house and I kept the mortgage paid and the bills paid for several months while you got on your feet. I'm the one who moved out, and I'm the one who filed for a divorce. And she says, oh, well, I left the relationship long before you ever moved out. Okay, right? So they do what they can to protect their ego in this relationship gone wrong. And to protect their ego, they go on the offensive and put you on the defensive. But the thing is when you go on the offensive, there's a difference between going on the offensive and attacking people, right? So, I mean, they're not being proactive, they're not being offensive. Well, they're being offensive, but their definition of being proactive and going on the offense is what the rest of humanity refers to as being attacked and being abused. So there's that. And you can't dump them because that also damages their ego. And that's how you end up with a stalker or someone who's harassing you. So when you leave somebody, when you leave a narcissist, they're not done with you because you're not allowed to leave them because they haven't found another unicorn yet, right? So when you leave them, now all of a sudden you end up with somebody like a forensic narcissist is what I always call them. They're the kind of people that no matter what you do, find another way into your life to cause you hell. Yeah, sorry, bad memories. So yeah, that's the third and final stage. When you finally leave them, they are not ready to leave you. You have to, and I've made other videos about this. You have to force them to replace you. Yeah, so I'll say that again. When you're in this final stage of abuse, when they start to devalue you, dumping them and leaving them just exacerbates the behavior. You have to force them to replace you because they're like a gypsy curse. You have to give them to somebody else to be rid of them. Literally, that's true. And unfortunately, that just means that you have to do that. There's no real way around it. A narcissist will not leave you alone until you've been replaced by somebody else. And if you try to warn that person, same as before, you can't warn the new person that they're with because they're being showered with loves and gifts and affection, and there's a complete cognitive dissonance between what you're telling them and what they're experiencing. And so of course it doesn't make sense to them because here's Bob Narcissist. He's this wonderful guy, got a wonderful career. He thinks you're pretty, thinks you're attractive. He's very taken by you. Holds your hand, opens the car door for you, just a complete and total gentleman. And here you are, the jealous psycho ex that he's already warned you about, coming in saying that he's mean, he's an abuser, he said such nasty things to me, he won't leave me alone, he's abusive. And their new person is just like, really, this total gentleman who's opening the car door? And he's like, I know, right? She's crazy. See what I mean? So you're never ever going to be able to help the next person that they're with. You won't, because they make sure of it. They've had plenty of practice. You can never save the next person a narcissist dates. You can't. And as painful as that is to say, you're helpless to help somebody in that situation. They have to go through it on their own. And that's very sad. My ex-wife, she's with a really good guy, a really nice guy. I didn't really think so in the beginning because she was having an affair with him. And that gets into the whole phase of narcissistic discard, where she was tired of me and was looking to replace me, but she still wanted me functionally there for money and support, right? But yeah, you can't help their next victim. You can't. Not until, I don't know, set a timer for like 3 months, and if they're still with that person, then maybe. But there's really just no, there's not a flow chart for how long it takes. So best thing you can do, go fully no contact, cut off your phone, block their number, change your phone number, even your phone provider. All of this sounds terrible. You can do this in one evening, and then you're free the rest of your life. In one evening, you can change your phone number, create a brand new email, and then with that email address, create a new Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Tinder, and start again. So please like, comment, or share. I'm almost out of time. I only get 15 minutes because I'm a cheap ass and my channel's small. So please like, comment, or share, and thank you guys for watching this series. I hope it helps.